50% of the dogs over 10 have cancer. And, our dogs are supposed to live, ideally, I believe, 25, maybe 30, there are dogs who've lived even longer than that. And what we're doing by feeding them this kibble, so kibble is a highly, highly processed food that's not a food. It's no longer a food. It's unrecognizable by the body.
Hi, and welcome to the Awakening series. My name is Kimberly Archuleta. Today we have an honored guest. This is the second time she's on our show. I'm super excited about this series of health in 2023. Our guest is Nikki Burnett. Nikki is a functional nutritionist, and today we're going to talk about pets. So let's get to it. This is so important for all our sweet little babies, our fur babies. Nikki, thank you again for being on the show. I'm so thankful for you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be on twice, which is super fun. But, I love talking about people. I love helping people. But one of my passion project, my heart goes out to the animals who don't have choices. We have a lot of choices. Animals don't have choices. But when we also don't, there are things that we don't know, because there's, a lot of marketing out there, and there's a lot of confusion about what's right and what's wrong for both people and for animals. But to be able to educate on what is really good food to help I'm going to say dogs, because I mostly work with dogs, but really all of our animals to live well, to live longer, to live big, vibrant lives, and go out vibrant, right? We're all going to have our time, but go out vibrant and not in so much pain, like we see so often these poor animals go through, and people too. So, yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited about this. When we spoke last, and we touched a little bit on, feeding dogs kibble and how that could be killing our dogs, and heartworm and medicine and all the stuff that we don't truly know. I truly think this particular session is going to be so important for so many fur baby parents, because not all of us read the book. Not all of us know what we're doing. And some of those books are wrong. So I'd love to ask you a little bit about what you're doing with pups, what you've seen in your practice with animals, and maybe what we can do to change the way we are, feeding our pets.
So I'll give you just a little bit of history, if that's okay, because my education as far as nutrition is concerned is human nutrition, but I have a Master of Science in animal science, which most people don't know. And then it has taken, as I've studied nutrition on my own, as well as through all of my schooling, I've kind of taken a lot of that. And at the same time, I'm studying animal nutrition as well. And I keep saying animal, really my focus is dogs. There's some cats that I'll work with as well, some, but really the focus is dogs. This started a lot when I had my own two boys that my husband and I adopted right after we got married, and we fed them kibble. That's all I knew. And then something, as my nutrition brain was developing, I was not a nutritionist yet, but was researching, and it just had the thought, there's got to be more. There's got to be something better. Is this really what they need? And so those two boys are who taught me and brought me to this place where I have so much to want to give to these animals, because they don't have choices. I learned on them. I fed them all kinds of different things as I was learning and figuring and trying to understand. And I'll tell you, I fed them kibble up until the day that one of my boys was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. And they were still getting raw as well. But I thought, it's not that big a deal. They'll get some raw, they'll get some kibble. We leave kibble down for them. They hardly ever ate the kibble. But it was because of those boys that I knew that something had to change. I knew, is it the water? There's fluoride in water, which is a big problem with human and animals. And the fluoride sits in bones. So, the basic things like filtering water, But then when we're looking at feeding raw, it really is about the understanding that dogs need raw meat. They need bone, raw bone. And we'll get deeper into this because yes, there are a lot of people are like, no, not bone. It's crazy. They need organ meat and they need good healthy fat and they need a little vegetable and a little fruit and they need other things as well. So they're not in the wild any longer. And so they need to have certain supplements because if they were in the wild and they went and grabbed a rabbit, they're going to eat the hair. The hair is part of their fiber. It helps their body, helps their digestive tract. If they're going to eat a deer, they're going to go after the guts essentially. And that's where they get their enzymes and their probiotics. They don't make their own enzymes well. They're going to go after the organ meats. They're going to go after these things that we don't necessarily feed them. And these are things that keep them healthy and keep them thriving. But we have to learn what it is they need because they are not us. And we have to remember that, a lot of times we see our dogs like, oh, he just loves me. And he's, he just needs all of these things. And they're very different than we are. They don't do carbohydrates well. We hear a lot of times that we're supposed to give, if a dog has an upset stomach, give them white fish and rice. Rice is one of the worst things that we can do for them. It's plain, but you're going to see their blood sugar spike. And, people who feed rice on a regular basis, they're probably going to end up with a diabetic dog. So there are a lot of things that we need to learn, but really it's pretty basic and fairly simple to learn how to feed them raw. It doesn't take very much time.
As far as getting to a point and understanding that kibble probably isn't the best idea for our pups, like you said, you stopped giving your pup kibble after he kind of was diagnosed. What happened after that? Like once you started feeding him the raw food?
Well, I still lost him after 6 months, which is pretty typical.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did what a lot of people would do. And they took that leg. Oh, he was so cute, little sweet thing. Anyway, but then I had his brother. And the hard thing was too, that it wasn't, I think it was 2 years later, he was diagnosed with cancer and we lost him after 8-9 months, I believe, something like that. No, it was a little bit longer than that, but I believe so much of it is due to the way that I fed them early on. And which is, it stinks, but we only know, and I have to, sometimes I have to talk myself off the ledge a little bit. And I'm talking with my clients and, even with human parents, right? It's hard you don't know what you don't know. And that's why we learn. And that's why I get so motivated and excited about sharing what I know and what I've learned. A lot of it's for the sake of my boys who taught me so much, but a lot of it is so people don't have to, hopefully can not go through what I went through. I think it's 50% of the dogs over 10 have cancer. And, our dogs are supposed to live, ideally, I believe, 25, maybe 30, there are dogs who've lived even longer than that. And what we're doing by feeding them this kibble, so kibble is a highly, highly processed food that's not a food. It's no longer a food. It's unrecognizable by the body. So they have to add in fake nutrients, which they often do. So when you look at the back of a bag of dog food and you see all of the nutrients that are listed, you're sitting there going, oh, great. We got vitamins and minerals. And we've got meat, we've got probiotics and all of these things, and they look amazing. Well, there's a lot there. The animals that are used to feed our animals are usually not healthy animals. And I talk to this, with my clients a lot. If we're not eating healthy animals, then we're not healthy. And so then you take it and you put it into this high heat processing, which creates, in all cases, at least one carcinogen, if not two. Then you add in synthetic nutrients, synthetic amino acids that the body's like, I don't really know what this is. Okay. So they may take up part of it, but it's not really giving them anything. And then they're adding in probiotics because it looks pretty, like, oh yeah, I'm feeding his gut microbiome. Probiotics don't do heat. They're live organisms. So they're all dead. There's nothing there. So we have to be so careful because marketing works really, really well. for us as humans in the foods. Sometimes it's not food that we eat and what we're feeding our dogs. And we're allowing this industry to tell us that we don't know what we're doing, that we don't know how to feed our dogs. And the other thing that gets me is when we talk about human food. Oh, I don't let my dogs have human food. It's food. People ask me what I feed my dogs. I'm like, well, it's whatever I have in the refrigerator, basically. And so obviously I'm very careful about it, and I don't feed them like I feed myself. I'm not going to eat raw chicken. But I'm certainly going to feed them raw chicken. And what we have to keep in mind is people, again, they take a step back when I say feed them raw. They're like, well, what about salmonella? What about, whatever other organisms? We're going to feed them human grade meat. We're going to not cook it because the fat in meat that's cooked is too hard on their pancreas. So they can end up with pancreatitis. And so, there are a lot of people who will put bacon grease on their dog's kibble. So you're just making it worse at that point because they don't do fat well. I've done it. I did it myself, and it's not a good thing to do. But it's before I knew, right? You don't know what you don't know until you learn, until you're educated. But feeding raw meat, because they're not going to go cook their meat. They need raw meat. Cooking changes the protein structure. So they need raw meat. They need raw fat. So it's not changed and it's easier on their pancreas. They need organ meat, any kind of organ meat you can find. But when it comes to liver specifically, they need beef liver because of the copper content. It's the proper copper content. So you can feed them chicken liver. You can feed them gizzards and brains and eyes and, testicles, and everything that you can find is amazing to give them, whatever it is. But beef liver is very important and should be a part of their diet. Also can be difficult to find. So I tend to give, little freeze-dried beef liver, and I just give it as treats. So they're still getting beef liver, even if I can't have a hard time finding beef liver. I feel like I should stop and see if you have any questions. I can talk a lot about this.
Yeah, no, I love that you give beef liver as treats, little frozen treats. That's so smart. I would never think to do that. Are you, do you feel that, we as pet owners can always afford this type of food? I mean, that's, I think, one thing that I feel bad for now. Like, all these people want a pet, and our food with inflation is super expensive, and now we're giving them our food. So it gets pretty expensive.
So it can be, sure. Yeah, it is. It's certainly more expensive. But the best thing that you can do if you're worried about the expense of it, if you're feeding, you want to find a kibble that is a good, high quality kibble. That's hard to do, right? Because kibble is just not healthy. And even people will, go to canned food, which is also really expensive. But I think it's even less healthy. Oh. So if you want to continue feeding kibble, things that you can do is give them vegetables and fruit, because they're high in phytonutrients and antioxidants, and they can help to mitigate some of the negative effects of the kibble. And one of the biggest things that I think is so important to keep in mind is kibble, because it's so dry, they're not meant to eat dry food, but it keeps them perpetually dehydrated. So make sure that if you continue to feed kibble, that you're putting it in water, you're letting it soak, so it's not as hard. Don't fall for the crazy, silly marketing gimmick that kibble helps clean their teeth. Dogs have the worst teeth when they're fed kibble. It's horrible. So that's not it. Put water on it, let it soak, let it. So they're making sure that they're not dehydrating themselves. Add broccoli. Sorry, back up. Fruits and veggies need to be put in a food processor because they don't break them down well. Again, they're not going to typically, in most cases, go out in the wild and go pick berries. They're going to get their fruits and vegetables from the animals that they kill, who are the fruit and vegetable eaters, right? So it's already in their gut. So it's broken down. Then they're getting, again, the enzymes and the probiotics, as well as the nutrients and the phytonutrients and all of the great things that fruits and vegetables can give them. So putting it in a food processor. I like to put mine in a food processor with a little bit of bone broth. So they're getting the good nutrients from the bone broth. They're getting the nutrition from the fruits and vegetables. And really, it's only about 20%. So it's not like they need a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables. It should not be the entire portion of their meal. They need mostly meat. So if you're doing kibble, add a little bit of meat. Whatever meat you're eating, add a little bit of meat. Try to make it raw. Add a little bit of fruit and veg. Add in some fish oil to help mitigate the inflammation. There's some things like that. Things that I like to add in also are going to be digestive enzymes. They need digestive enzymes because they don't have them like we do necessarily. Like I said, they get it from their kill. And then also, what was I going to say? Glandulars. I like giving my dogs glandulars. So it's just supplements. They're human supplements with glandulars. So having a pancreatic glandular and then having the liver and having the other organs all mixed up, it's in supplement form, but at least it's something. If I can't get what they need from the butcher shop or from wherever it is, I'm able to periodically give them glandulars, which are super healthy for them on a fairly regular basis, even if it's in supplement form.
That's brilliant. This information is literally like life-saving. So what do you feel as far as like with this diet from day one, when somebody gets a pup, I think my nanny, she got a pup. So, I mean, like 2 days ago, so cute.
Nice.
This sweet
Let me
little
talk
pup.
to her.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering what is the life expectancy truly if we switched from kibble to, the diet that you're suggesting?
So that's a really loaded question. And I'll tell you why. When we were talking on our last show, we were talking about epigenetics. And what we have done both with ourselves as well as with our dogs is we're changing their epigenome through lifestyle factors. And so just if you didn't hear this before, I'll just be really quick about this. But the epigenome are locations on top of our genes, on top of our genome, essentially, that turn on and off due to lifestyle factors. And that's what helps with, or what brings on gene expression. So gene expression can be disease, gene expression can be health, gene expression can be, all of these things. Gene expression can be whether we detoxify properly or not. So much about it. But the epigenome is based in lifestyle. It's the most amazing thing because it truly puts the control in our hands. It puts the control in our hands, what we put in our body, what we put on our body, what we clean our homes with, what we clean our clothes with, what we put in our gardens. All of these things we have the ability to control. So it puts the accountability on us, which is amazing. We can't sit back and say, oh, I just have bad luck, or I have to blame it on my family, or, I'm just old and all of these things are happening. It really makes us accountable for what we do, what we put in our bodies, our disease state or our health state. We are in control. And I love it so much. It's not easy, but I love it because we're not dependent on any of these other things out there to make us healthy or make us sick. It's here. It's us. It's me. It's my job to do the things to keep me healthy. And then, of course, teach and keep my family healthy. And then on for generations. So that was kind of the point to all of that is what the data shows is my health today is in large part due to 7 generations behind me. And then the health of the next generations, epigenetics can affect 7 generations ahead. It's beautiful and it's amazing, but it also, again, puts a lot of accountability on us to create that health of the future. So when it comes to dogs, so much of what we've done by feeding them kibble, we've shortened their lives and turned on these variants that are creating situations of cardiovascular symptoms, of diabetes, of thyroid conditions, these chronic diseases that we deal with, they're now dealing with when this is not normal to them necessarily in nature, right? And so they have a much shorter lifespan. So, could we actually increase their lifespan over time, the way to where it's supposed to be? Sure. Over generations, I think that we could, but it's really a matter of taking that step back and knowing that what we're doing today, what we're feeding our dogs today, yes, it can increase their life, but more than that, it can increase their ability to live the life that they have, just like us. I could be, don't mean to be graphic, but it's true. I could be hit by a truck tomorrow, but at least I lived as fully as I possibly could until that point. And that's how I want to live my life. That's how I want my dogs to live their life. As long as they have, I want them to live full. I want them to not have hip issues, the dysplasia that so many dogs deal with, the obesity, the cancer, for the love of Pete, the cancer, it's heartbreaking. Cancer is a mitochondrial issue. Cancer is an inflammatory issue. Cancer is nasty, and it's hard, and it's difficult. And my heart still breaks every day from losing both of my boys to cancer, when I thought I was doing all the right things, but I wasn't. And, it's a lesson that we learn, and it's a hard lesson, but it's a lesson that we learn. And I'm just motivated to make sure that my girls, I've got 3 little crazy girls now, are around as long as I can keep them around and living well as long as I can, and then helping others to do the same. I just think it's so, so important. Does that answer your question?
Oh my gosh, yes, we appreciate you so much. I'm speaking for the audience because this information is priceless. Let's talk a little bit about the medicines we give our pups. What are your thoughts about heartworm medicine and things along those lines?
Oh, so that one can really be a tough one. It's tough. It's not tough for us who live in Colorado or who live in the northern areas where we don't have a lot of mosquitoes. So we have very little heartworm. It's here. It happens, but it's pretty rare. So my advice for those of us who are in a situation is, if you give heartworm prevention at all, do it in the seasons where it's warmer, the mosquitoes are out, and they could be bitten by a mosquito. So don't, there's no point in doing it in the colder months. Once it hits, I think it's 46 degrees or something like that, mosquitoes are gone. So there's no point in constantly bombarding their body with these poisons, which affects their epigenome, which affects their mitochondria. It's a poison, right? It's a poison that kills microbes. It's a poison that they say in small dosing is safe. I'm not there. Consistent poisoning is still consistent poisoning no matter what. Now, I know also, and this is where I'm not great at it, but I know that there are some herbs and some things that can be really good for helping to mitigate parasites like that in animals. There's a company that I use a lot called Cellcore, and they have a lot of antiparasitics, antimicrobials. And so that's actually sort of next on my list to start digging into that, because I would love to know if there is much data at this point on heartworms and their products. But they're amazing. They're amazing products. But beyond that, when it comes to those who are in the South, so one of my girls came to me as a foster with heartworm. And the goal was to bring her to me because I have the dog experience, the nutritional experience, and we were doing more of a supplement plus ivermectin, which is an antiparasitic, and just more of a little bit of a natural protocol, but it's a little bit longer protocol. But we didn't have to keep her, pinned up in a kennel for months, which is miserable. So, and she ended up staying with us. She had a lot of stuff going on, but we cleared her of her heartworms, and she's doing great. And she's now with us, which, is now number 3, but foster fail. Yeah, it was good. It was really good.
Aww.
But she came from Texas, and which is where I'm from originally, but Texas is horrible. Louisiana, Florida, all of these places that they're inundated with mosquitoes, and there's so much heartworm down there. What I think I think, so this is not written in stone. I think that you can do heartworm preventive out more like 6 weeks, maybe up to 2 months. You don't doing it monthly, I think, is excessive, and I don't think it's necessary. But I think that I think what I did when I was in Texas is I moved it out to 6 weeks. But also, if it gets cold there, it gets cold in Texas. If it's starting to get below certain temperature, that 46, then don't give it. So depending on where you are, just keep that in mind. But flea prevention, same. We don't have fleas in Colorado, and they're still trying to sell us flea prevention in Colorado. It makes no sense. So these northern areas where there are no fleas, don't give flea prevention. There's no point in it at all. There are some ticks. You can do essential oils that are great for, make sure that they're safe for dogs, but essential oils, collars you can do that can help with ticks and sometimes fleas. So things like that can be beneficial. Again, when you're infested, Texas, those places, it's a little bit of a different story. I don't think, though, when I was in Texas and I had my boys, I don't think I gave them flea prevention. But what I did is I did a natural insecticide around the house and outside on a regular basis. So they rarely had fleas. So we just treated the yard, but it was not a toxin. It wasn't poison. So that's another thing to keep in mind for, you've got all these pest controls that put these toxins in your yards, and your dogs go and they walk around in the yards. Your kids walk around barefoot in your yards. This is not good stuff. It puts a massive burden on the body. Do you want me to go into vaccines, or is there?
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't want to, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I don't want to
No,
just
this is
keep
amazing.
talking.
All this information is so needed. I'm just wowed. Yeah.
Okay. Not everybody's going to agree with this, and that's okay. But this is how I work, and this is how I work with my dogs, and this is how I talk to my clients. But when I'm talking with clients about certain things like vaccines, like the prevention, the drugs that we're talking about, and the toxins that we're talking about, my goal is to give the information, give you enough information that if you want to search for more, you can search for more, and then you make your own decisions based on the information that you have. That's what knowledge and education is. And that's all I can ask for, is that you go into a situation with as much knowledge as possible so you can make the right decision for you. As far as vaccines are concerned, so first we'll start with rabies, just because that's an easy one, because we have to do it. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. We have a lot of functional vets out there who are fighting this ridiculous notion that we have to give rabies vaccines to our dogs every year or every 3 years. 3 years is better than every year. But it is mandated at this point. If you have a sick dog, your vet should write you a note that you don't have to have a rabies vaccine. Don't do it. You don't need the immune, a ramped up immune system because of the vaccine when you have a dog that's already immunocompromised. It doesn't make any sense. So keep that in mind. And vets should tell you that. Vets, when my boys had cancer, we didn't give them the rabies vaccines. Now, there are certain vaccines that are your typical puppy vaccines. And this is where I'm still a little bit on the fence, because most of the people who I follow, who I still, talk to, and as I'm learning and growing in my knowledge and education around dogs, is puppy shots, puppy vaccines are probably still beneficial. What I would tell you, though, is to spread them out. And I think it's maybe even just the first set or the first couple of sets, but spread them out. So it's not this massive influx on the immune system and the immune system goes haywire. I had one of my boys had pancreatitis one time, and I was feeding him, raw food, and it was higher in fat because he was getting the chicken skin and the whole thing, which is a good thing. So don't be afraid of that. It's great, full of collagen, all kinds of good stuff. But I think my favorite part of the chicken for me is the chicken skin. It's delicious. Anyway, one of his comments was that he believes that the constant vaccines are also what could be pushing this pancreatitis. We have a lot of dogs who deal with pancreatitis. A lot of it is also because we have unhealthy rancid fats in our kibble, or we're feeding them cooked food and they don't deal well with cooked fat. But is it also the vaccine? Is it the situation where it's the, which is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? You have so many things that an animal or a human can take. At some point, it's just all gonna kind of fall apart. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if I give my puppy vax, now most of mine are rescues. A couple of them already had their vaccines when they came in. But if they have those, at this point now, I give no vaccines, but I will do titer testing. And so titer testing is checking for antibodies to see if they still have antibodies against whatever it is that you're vaccinating for. And so my girls are now, well, I don't know, one of them, I don't know how old she is, but we've had them for probably, 6 years, 5 years, and 3 years or something like that. Not one of them has needed another vaccine because they have antibodies still from their puppy shots. So by giving yearly vaccines, we are creating a huge immune problem for our dogs. It's a huge inflammatory response. We're having dogs who react to it, who don't deal well with it. There's also one, is it lepto? Listeria. Is it Listeria lepto? It's one of those. Anyway, there's a vaccine for it, and there's no good science behind it, but it's pushed on people all the time. So we want to be real. I think there's even a vaccine for Giardia. It's a bacteria. They get it. One of my girls had Giardia. It's not fun, but you don't want to give a vaccine for a bacteria. It makes no sense to me. And there's no good science behind it. I like evidence-based, and these are, in my mind and in my research, these are not evidence-based. Neither is vaccinating yearly. There's no good evidence behind vaccinating yearly.
What else would you like to tell us about keeping our dogs healthy? I mean, we talked a lot about diet, we talked about medicine, we talked about vaccines. What else do you think we can do as pet owners of these beautiful, sweet, furry pups and kitties? What else can we do?
One of the things that sticks out to me is, we know that when we sleep, we need a dark space, and we need it to be darker than probably a lot of us realize. We really need it to be dark. We want to make sure that we're allowing our dogs to be in the dark as well. So wherever they are, that the lights are out, there aren't a bunch of night lights, because just like with us, it can interfere with their circadian rhythm. It can create more stress, which is inflammatory. It can create a lot of problems. So, I think that's an important one to keep in mind. Getting them out for a walk. There are a couple of ways that we can walk our dogs, which is kind of interesting and fun. One is taking your dog out for a speed walk, right? Actually getting it some exercise. Not letting it sit and play and ponder and smell and sniff and all the things, but actually getting it him or her, some exercise. If it's a run, or if it's a bike, or if it's just a good walk, they need that exercise. But another piece of that is a dog needs that stimulation of the sniffing and the moseying around and the hanging out and doing the things that a dog does. They need that, especially if they don't have a nice big yard to go hang out in. So giving them both of those options, giving them the time to meander and have some fun, and giving them the time where they're getting some exercise, it's really important. They need that stimulation. They need playtime. They need toys. Oh, here's a big one. This is, in my mind, it's one of the biggest things that most people don't think about. I don't know. Yeah, it's so important. We want to give our dogs toys. I love giving my dogs toys. They're so fun. They play, they run around, they're flopping around. I have one of my girls, she's hilarious with the toys and the ropes, and she trips over them. It's the best. But so many of our toys are coming from China. They're toxic. You've got you've got these colorings and these chemicals and these fire retardants and all of these things that are on toys, on their bedding. Same with us, right? Our couches, our rugs, all of these things are, again, it's a real burden on the immune system. And so when I give my dogs toys, it's usually long ropes, just white cotton ropes. It might be bamboo, something that's bamboo based. I will not buy anything for them that they're going to chew on that comes out of China. Won't do it. And most everything does. I have the hardest time finding toys for these dogs. And all I want is to give them big toys to chew on and play with. But it's not that easy. So they have big balls that they can, that are, they're not plastic. They're something else anyway, but they'll take those and run around with them. So that's something that I think is really important, because if they're constantly chewing and playing with those toxins, it's getting into their system and it's creating a burden. Rawhide, never, ever, 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 ever give rawhide. It can create obstructions. It's hard on the body. It's the way that it's treated and bleached. It's all chemically. Rawhide's a really bad idea. What is good though is chicken feet. Chicken feet's amazing.
Interesting. I wonder if they have hemp products for dogs. Hemp
like for chew toys or for ingestion.
And I mean, all of the above, I guess.
Yeah. So I would assume so. As far as toys are concerned, I've not seen them. I've seen bamboo. I just ordered some.
That's cool.
But there is a company. So this is the human. I'm going to show this to you. It's called Green Compass.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have, and I'm showing it to you for a couple of reasons, because I know it's good. Green Compass is a good quality. It's a good product. It's all organic. They have the data on all of their bottles. It's as far as I'm concerned to date, and I'm not super experienced in CBD. It's only CBD. It's not THC, but to date, I'm still learning and I'm still growing with it, but it's the best that I've seen so far. And they do have dog products. Yeah.
That's awesome to know. Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, before it was illegal, at least CBD, people have been using it for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I mean, hieroglyphs that show that people are using it literally to cook with it, all sorts of cool stuff. And I'm like, if we can ingest it and take it for ailments or medicinal or therapy purposes, why can't our animals, right? So it's
so true. It's so sad when things like food become political. And really, essentially, that's what it is. Yes, you can use hemp for, rope and clothing and all of these things. But the beautiful thing about it, which is, we have, and so do dogs, and so do all mammals, as far as I know, I think it's all mammals, have a natural endocannabinoid system. Mm-hmm. We have to have these things, and to make something like that political, anytime you make things like that political, it's just disgusting. Making fat political is disgusting. It's frustrating and it's maddening, when things like that happen. But we're moving away from it, but now we're also dealing with the products that are trash. And that's okay, because in my mind, I would rather have less regulation and more self-accountability to understand and purchase the right products for you, and find the people who know and go to the people who can help you and guide you without all of the regulation and all of the BS. I think that's important with supplements, with CBD, with all of these things. I want to take care of myself. I don't need anybody else handling that for me. You know what I mean? So, anyway, back to CBD.
That was great. That's phenomenal. Towards the end of a pup's life, like I have seen people give CBD to help with their pain and so on, but just in general, what are your suggestions as they grow older? And I mean, their body breaks down just like ours does when we grow older. What are your suggestions as far as working with them during this, crucial time of their pups, last couple of years, for example?
Oh, they're so sweet and just not here long enough. One of the things so with my boys, I use THC and CBD when they were both going through their cancer process. I was doing everything that I could, probably more than I should have. Sometimes they just need to go, but I did both CBD and THC. And so just being very careful with it. They're very, very sensitive to it. And so it's not about just, bunch of drops in their mouth. It really, you want to be careful with it. I don't think it's going to hurt them, but it's not comfortable, when they get overdosed essentially. And I did it, right. It didn't hurt, but they get glassy eyed and I just want you to feel better, right? I don't want you to be super high. But, THC is good for cancer. It can be a good thing for cancer. And so I don't have any problem with that piece of it. When it comes to, the medicinal uses of it, I think it's perfectly acceptable. And people have their other reasons for it, and that's fine. It's not my thing. And but I have no problem with it. It's a plant created by God. Great. I appreciate it. I appreciate what the reasons why he gave it to us. There are certain things like with, a lot of dogs deal with joint issues. And one of the best things that you can do is a glucosamine product from green-lipped mussels. So I don't know what it is about this particular type of mussel, so ocean mussels, but it's this green-lipped mussel that is really has, I don't know if it's more absorbable or more potent. I really honestly don't know, but it's for humans and for animals. Green lip mussel is one of the best things that you can do. Good hyaluronic acid, a good collagen, making sure as they're aging that you're changing some of their nutrients in their supplements as they need it. If you have a more geriatric, geriatric dog, you might need to change if you're doing a multivitamin for them, doing a different multi that supports an older dog. I will also say that there are very few animal supplements that I trust. Most of the supplements that I give to my dogs are human grade. As a nutritionist, all of the supplements that I use for my humans and for my animals are all professional quality anyway. And so you have to get them through a practitioner. But I do that because I know the quality and I know that they're getting what they say they're going to be getting. And it's not a bunch of trash. We get our supplements through Amazon and through eBay. I have on my website a PDF that can be downloaded that talks about why we should not buy supplements off of Amazon and eBay. There are companies who bought their own products back. And when they tested them, they weren't the right product. They weren't the same product. They were expired products. They were sawdust. It's disgusting what people will do for a buck. And so it's sad, but again, it goes back to the accountability for us to do our research, figure out what's right for us, and buy the things that are good and healthy from the people who are out there doing the right things, which is one of the reasons, again, why I like Green Compass. They're out there for a reason to do the right things and to build health and not just make a buck. And so, same with our dogs. I give them, human quality fish oil. I give them human quality mushrooms. I give them, I rotate, but the glandulars are glandulars, not human, but human grade. So there are a few things that I'll give that are for dogs. Their microbiome's a little bit different than ours. So I find a good probiotic that's specific to dogs. But sometimes I'll also give some that are specific to humans. I mix it up. That's what we need as well. So does that help?
Yes, that helps so much. That's so good to hear, and such good information. This is phenomenal. I am so excited to start the new year off with a healthy pet, happy fur babies, and also, extending that life. What pets do for us is insane. They're like, I wouldn't say better than our own kids in the sense of, causing us less stress, but they help us with stress. So to allow them to live longer is just so important for us, mostly, of course, for them, obviously for them, but also for us, all for our family, for the kids, for the mom, for the dad, for everybody. So if we can extend their life by giving them, and also allowing them to live, like you said, a more fruitful, healthy, happy, vibrant life. Well, let's all do our part in researching and figuring out what's best for our pup, and also eliminating that kibble.
Yeah. If it's okay, there's a book.
Yes, please.
Do you mind if I grab it real quick?
Not at all. No.
This is a book that was just released. I pre-ordered it because I knew that I was going to love it, but it's called The Forever Dog. And so this is by Karen Becker and Rodney Habib. So Karen Becker is she is a functional veterinarian, and, trained conventionally, but has moved into raw feeding and understanding, true understanding what dogs need. It's fairly heavy science, which I love, but it really gives an amazing background, and it gives lots of options. So as I was talking about, if you're going to feed kibble because you need to feed kibble due to budgeting concerns, then here are the things that you can do. She talks a lot about that, and how these small things can make a difference, because the vegetables with their amazing antioxidants and nutrients can help to mitigate, some of these, these foods that, damage mitochondria, and, these are our little energy, sources. But point to all of that is they're doing really, really good things in the animal world, particularly with dogs and cats. And if I could ever just meet them and hug them, I would, because I just love what they're doing. So it's a great resource.
That's phenomenal. And I'll definitely put the information in the description below. Nikki, thank you so very much for all of your information, and also the fact that you had the courage to speak about, vaccines, about heartworm, about how to use it, how not to use it, what you should use, what you shouldn't use. I mean, not many people do have that courage, and I just commend you for, giving us the insight that you've learned about throughout all of these years with your your amazing education. I mean, you just brought so much information to all these wonderful parents, these fur baby parents, and I'm just super thankful, and I'm thankful for your honesty, and I commend you for all that you're doing for humans and pets alike.
Thank you. I appreciate that a ton. I really do. It's fun. It's hard.
Yay.
It's fun.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Happy 2023, and thank you for everything.